I have way too many dreams and aspirations for just one person. I want to read all the books, write all the novels, travel to all the countries, and research all the historical topics that I study. But hey, there's nothing wrong with following your dreams, right? In fact, I would encourage all of you as historians to dream big. There's nothing fun in doing all of this work just to settle for the bare minimum. And as you've been seeing in trends lately, being delusional is actually getting people a lot farther than playing it safe. Here are just some of the unrealistic, crazy goals that I may be just delusional enough to pursue and achieve. Hi, I'm Madeline Feierstein, trained historian and criminologist. I study prisons, hospitals, and America during wartime. All right, so the first big goal of mine, right, is to get my PhD. I have my master's in American history, which I was awarded in 2024. I'm a student at heart. I just love to study and learn things, right? And when I left academia, I felt like part of my identity was also a bit lost. I thrive in the academic environment, but to be quite honest, the PhD program seemed a little bit too much for me at the time. And now that I've started my own business and have a book deal coming out, I wasn't really sure where the PhD would fit in. I do know that I definitely want a PhD. It's something that I aspire to personally. Do I really need it for my career? Not really. Historians can make it without ever getting a PhD. And I have a video about getting a book deal without a PhD down below. The thing is, if I were to do a PhD, I'd really have to decide on what era or topic, because my master's thesis was on the American Civil War, which I love and adore. But lately, I have been diving into my other historical interests with rampant fervor. I've been getting more into my previous studies on the First World War, the Industrial Revolution, and immigration. I've been doing a lot more genealogical and soldier research from World War I. I also have this great book idea about writing more about the 1910s, that decade, and how impactful it was. And yet, I have a big passion for the Civil War, and I could see myself totally continuing to expand my thesis, expand my current book, because it leads into my second crazy goal. At the National Archives in Washington, D.C., where I live, there are these massive, massive prison ledgers from my town, Alexandria, Virginia, which is right across the river from Washington. And I used those ledgers to help formulate my master's thesis and, of course, write a bunch of articles and lectures and guided tours. I love them so much. The problem is there's like 10 of them, and they're huge, and they have like 900 pages each, and they're so fragile, and the handwriting is just awful. But they're not digitized, and not many people know about the prisons at all. A lot of the work I've done in the past 4 years is to get more out there about Alexandria's prisons. I've done lectures on it, I've talked to great institutions about this, and I would love to, as like a life goal of mine, help transcribe all of these books and get more data out there on them. The thing is, that would be, I honestly could gather at least 5 years of transcribing alone. And then additional 5 years of interpreting the data. And then 5 to 10 years, maybe, of getting it into like book form or getting the archive out there in a digital format. And I just don't have that time to do it all by myself. So the only way I can see that really working is if I get a really massive grant, which allows me to put aside my other jobs, my other work, to focus on that, or if I do it as part of a team. The PhD would be a great opportunity to do that because at least maybe I focus on one of the prisons and not all 5 of them, but then I would have institutional support to do so. Moving away from the Civil War, I had this incredible fascination, especially last year, with Scotland. So I went to Scotland last year for my 30th birthday, and we did the whole country. We did not get to go to any of the islands, though. We never got to ferry across due to time constraints and having a rental car. And yes, I'll admit it, I fell in love with Scotland because of Outlander. I love the books, love the series. And I was just like many other Outlander tourists. I went to all the different filming locations. But I was really fascinated before I even found Outlander with the Jacobite revolutions. I had written about the parallels between the Jacobite rebellions in 1715 and 45 with the American Revolution, the similar causes. I also wrote about a Scottish colonization in the New World and their relationships with Native Americans. So I was already familiar a bit with like the themes of early Outlander, right? As well as the later parts of the book series and show when they do come to North Carolina and settle down. So back to my dreams. I fell in love with the country. We all do. We all think maybe I could live here, blah, blah, blah. But I really felt akin to it. I have no Scottish ancestry or Irish or English. So I'm not entirely sure like where this fascination came from. But I got so into it. I researched a lot of it during my grad program for these papers and stuff. And I really found myself interested in maybe pursuing like Scottish studies. Now you're probably thinking, whoa, you study prisons and hospitals and the Civil War and America during wartime, like what on earth? I thought that wouldn't that be a treat when I'm like old, retirement age, to get like my master's in like Scottish history and like from a Scottish university online, right? 'Cause I did look into it. It is a thing. And I figured that'd be a fun thing to do. Yeah, completely unrealistic, completely like random, delusional, but I'm only able to study Scottish history right now, like on the periphery, not full time and not really part of my business, my LLC. The only way I could see myself doing that is if I just do a lecture on it, which would be kind of random considering it's not one of my main topics, or if it's part of my genealogical research I do for a client. Now let's get into things that don't have to do with like the research itself, but more like me as like a public historian. So I would love to be interviewed on TV, like by the BBC, by the History Channel. I would love to be considered one of the experts in those documentaries. I would love to work with PBS on something. Just because, like, look, I'm not super vain. I'm a very humble person, but most of the recognition I've gotten for my work has been on paper. Like the articles I've written, this book coming out. Guided tours I've done, yes, but it's very transient. So I've only done a couple of really big lectures, and I'm doing my first academic conference this summer. So I feel like people know me, but they may not know my face or like really who I am. And this is something that would be a dream. Yeah, it's kind of vain, I understand, but it would be so, like, I'd be so honored to be featured and to be one of the experts interviewed, because that's how you know you really make it, when the History Channel calls you up and says, we need you to comment on this, because that'd be fun. So another dream of mine, which again, it may not happen because of just like the nature of the work I do, I would love to be able to like help create a docuseries on PBS or BBC or history, right? I would love to help create like a mini series. Maybe if eventually my work on Alexandria's prisons and hospitals gets word out, maybe we can make like a dramatized docuseries where we have actors portraying people, and not like PBS's Mercy Street, which you may be thinking of. That's entirely like a fictional series. It's a drama, but like, you know, those historical reenactment things you hear about, like the men who built America to be like the prisons of the Civil War, right? But I would love to be kind of consulting on that, or helping craft it, write it. I think it also goes along with the work I do for K-12 learning materials and helping support teachers and students, because I love educating and I love creating, because part of what YouTube is, part of what my Instagram is video editing and thinking about cinematography. I mean, this is a very basic cinematography, right? Just to sit down with me and chat. But yeah, I think it's completely unrealistic, and I think it's something that will happen maybe in like 40 years. I think I'm going to be a very old woman when I get consulted on something like that. But I think it'd be pretty cool. And lastly, this may seem like such a step back kind of dream, like a very low bar dream. I would love to be a Pulitzer Prize finalist for a book on history. And you're probably thinking, don't you want to just get the Pulitzer Prize? Well, hear me out. A lot of my favorite authors, favorite historians, are Pulitzer Prize finalists, and I think their work is fantastic. So obviously winning it would be a dream, but to be even considered for such an amazing award that's it. That's amazing to me. That would be such a recognition of my work. And plus, I'm sitting here trying to emulate the work done by these guys, and the fact that the one thing a lot of them have in common is being a finalist, not being chosen, but being a finalist, means that, hey, you don't even have to set the bar so high to win, that you can do great things and get recognition and have your work be known by millions just by making that list. So what are your guys' crazy, unrealistic dreams? What are you delusional about? Comment below. Thanks for watching.